You'll see me just sitting there.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Mind Your Puckin' Business with your host, Jeffrey Krentzman.
Thank you, Dougie Sticks. Very solid intro there.
Thank you.
On your game face today.
Yeah, solid 9.
Solid, yeah, definitely solid 9.
9.
Yeah, solid 9 for sure. Welcome to the show, everybody. Coming to you, as always, from the beautiful studios of Undefeated Media here in Bergen County, New Jersey. This is Mind Your Puckin' Business, brought to you, of course, by our good friends at Sonnet Financial Technologies. We thank you for joining us. This is episode number 47 for those counting, and those tuning in on the Spanish dial today. That would be 47.
See.
Here we go, right?
Nice.
And you can send your questions, as always, anytime to mypbshow@gmail.com. And I assure you today that we have the questions that came in that will be answered, because on the show today, we are doing a very exciting topic, the New York Rangers season, which kicks off 8 days from now. We're going to have Dan Rosen, senior writer of NHL.com, on with us, actually on the front portion of the show. He should be on in a couple minutes, and we will take some of the questions that we had come in, and we will go through them and ask Dan some of them. If you're looking to find us, or you wonder, hey, are there other ways we can find these people? You can find us a variety of different ways. That would be Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and Facebook.
No excuse.
No excuse not to find us. You've got 4 options for you. And good thing we weren't on yesterday, because if we were on yesterday with Facebook going down, you would have lost one of your main ways to
access
find us.
Points.
Yes, but you got us. So a lot coming up on the show today. Dan Rosen will join us in a couple minutes. We're going to run through the Rangers. We're going to kind of do like rapid fire questions. And then we also today will, of course, go do our week 5 picks for the NFL season. We will recap how we did in week 4. I'll keep you in suspense to let you know if we had a winning week. We were going into this week with 2 wins and 1 loss. So I said this was a critical week, because either we're going to be 3-1 or 2-2. There's a big difference. So you can stay tuned after Dan and find out that answer. And but before we get started, before Dan joins us, you over the weekend had your bachelor party, which included wrapping it all together, a Ranger thrashing by the Devils on Friday night at your bachelor party. So I was not sure. I was excited this morning when I pulled up to the studio that I saw your beautiful car outside, because I wasn't sure if you were going to be here, if you were still in Atlantic City. So you made it? It was good?
We made it. We're good. Guys did great. We had great seats. We were in a suite. I mean, I know it was preseason. That's probably how we were able to get access to this suite. But yeah, great game. Sorry, I had to jump on the Devils bandwagon for that one, because every 2 minutes there was a goal. So you can't really top. You can't. I don't know if I can ever top that hockey game. Rooting for a team that scores 7 goals in a game. I mean,
well, it doesn't happen often. And if you're a Ranger fan, and we'll get into hockey here in a minute, if you're a Ranger fan or any team really for that matter, and your team is going to let up 7 goals and look basically abysmal, let it be in the preseason. Right.
Yes,
let it be now, before the real season starts for the Rangers in 8 days. Before Dan comes on, I joke about it, and I'm going to go back on what I say, because I say that the one thing you will not hear us talk about on the show really ever is baseball. Just not our thing. It was a time where it was for me and my wife, but it's not really anymore. But we should mention tonight, a little exciting, as we're taping this show today on the 5th of October, Tuesday, the Yankees have this one game, basically Game 7, if you will, against the Red Sox up at Fenway, where the winner moves on and the loser goes home.
So is that how they do it? Is this like the qualifying game? Is it like a mini series? What's going on here?
They added a playoff team, MLB, a couple years back, where basically the two teams will play for the right to be the wild card in a 1-game playoff. So whoever wins tonight will move on and play the Tampa Bay Rays, and the loser will basically be done. Will go home. So you extended your playoffs for 2 days, because the regular season ended Sunday, and then you will end up playing 1 game and lose, which hopefully that will not be the Yankees. So you're not giving a prediction tonight for Yankees.
Yankees. I mean, absolutely. Wait, are you going Red Sox?
Dude, no. I used to live in Boston for 4 years.
That's what I'm saying.
I lived my junior year. I think we talked about this once, because someone emailed in about this, that I lived a block from Fenway Park my senior year. And I would hear outside my window every night, Yankees suck, as the drunk fans would come back to their cars because they would park on Park Street, which is where I used to live, 509 Park Street, my junior year of college. Yeah, so I am not a Red Sox fan in any way. As a matter of fact, I would go as far to say that when you talk about professional sports teams, the one team that I hate more than any team in any sport is the New Jersey Devils. That ain't even close. But I would say second on the list is probably the Boston Red Sox.
Wow.
It's got to be, actually, now that I think about it.
Interesting, coming from a guy who lived there.
But just because I went to school there doesn't mean that I converted and I was going to become a Boston fan.
All right.
So it should be interesting.
But you're a Patriots fan?
No, not at all. I don't like anything.
Well, maybe I'm thinking Brian. I don't know.
Yeah, you're thinking our producer.
You're all right. Got it.
It's definitely not me.
Okay. So then why go to Boston?
Well, I didn't go for the sports experience. I went to learn. Now, my college days, I played a tremendous amount of PlayStation hockey. Anyway, great segue. I see that our favorite guest that joins us, Dan, is here. Let's see if we can get Dan Rosen on. We can bring him in. Hello, Dan. How are you?
What's going on, guys? How are you?
How are you? Thank you for joining us. I would think for you this is an exciting time of year as the NHL is now a week away.
It is a very exciting time. It's kind of like that, you're just antsy now. It's like that, you're just waiting for it to happen. I'm so done with I'm glad training camps are winding down and rosters are gonna, getting cut down. You look at the Rangers, they've cut down. I think they're down to 26 now, if I'm correct. I'm going to go to my first preseason game tomorrow night at the Garden. I just didn't think it was necessary to go to the other ones. So you're getting down to the nitty gritty here in training camp. Roster battles are really taking shape. You're also around the league seeing guys finally sign their contracts like Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes, still at Brady Tkachuk out there. There's a lot to get excited about. I'm going to Tampa on Sunday for the opening night, Tuesday night. I'll be at their practice on Monday and at the game against the Penguins on Tuesday, the two-time defending Cup champs against the previous two-time defending Cup champs. So, yeah, I'm getting there, man. I'm pretty pumped.
Cool. Well, we are excited, and that's a good opening day assignment because Tampa, I think you and I talked off there, is a good city to go to. It's a good city to definitely go see a game. So I'm going to ask you a bunch of Ranger questions. I took some questions from me, and then what I did is I put it out to the viewers to send some in, so we picked some. And we'll kind of run through them, and then we'll kind of save for the end kind of the prediction of where we think maybe they'll end up or what would be a realistic expectation. And then I had a couple other questions. Some Devils fans sent some stuff in, so I'm going to be fair. I'm not going to hog your time and just give you all Rangers, but we'll start with the Rangers for sure. So I would think if you can let me know if you agree on this. This is a critical year for Kaapo Kakko, right? He's 2 years. It doesn't sound like you really like David Quinn. From some of the stuff you read. It's also the contract year for him coming off the entry-level contract at the end of the year. And the plan, it looks like to try and get him going is to put him with Stroman Panarin. At least that's one of the thought processes here, which playing with Breadman, I think should help anybody's production, really. How important of a year is this for Kaapo Kakko?
Well, it's huge. I mean, A, it's a contract year, so that's number one. And B, it's time for him to take that next step. Whether he liked David Quinn or not, I think what David Quinn actually did with him was, at times really the right thing because Kakko didn't deserve more ice time. He wasn't deserving of playing more. And you have to learn. You have to go through growing pains. I don't care if you're the number one pick or the number two pick. You have to go through growing pains unless you're Connor McDavid or Austin Matthews or somebody like that. And those guys come along, once or twice a generation, really, when you think about it. So Kakko, number two pick a couple of years ago, has got 2 years under his belt. But again, also think about this. One is a shortened season that got cut off, and the other one is a short season. So he hasn't played 2 full seasons. He's played 2 partial seasons. And I think that also plays into it as well. But this is a big year for him, and he's got a big opportunity. Gerard Gallant wants to give him this big opportunity to play with Stroman Panarin. When you're on that line, you should be generating offense. And Kakko's job on that line is get to the front of the net. He's big, he's physical, win battles in the corner, and get to the front of the net and score goals. I think we've seen a little bit of that in the preseason. And now we've got to see him take it to the next level in the regular season. He says he's ready. The strength is undoubtedly there. He can do it. There's no question. I think Panarin wants to see him succeed and help him succeed. Same with Strome. And I think that's important that there's developing chemistry. And this is a huge season for Kakko. There's no question about it. He has to prove it right now that he is deserving and belongs in a top 6 role with this team because the opportunity is finally there for him.
Yeah, I would agree. This and again, if it's not going to happen on a line with Strom or Panarin, then I'd be a little bit
Right.
concerned here. So
Yes.
another name that kind of seems like it's a critical year, and I don't maybe even more so than Kako is Philip Hedl. Here's a guy who's probably, I would assume, going to start third line center from what it looks like for sure.
Yep.
And is this a make or break year for him? I mean, we may have even reached that point in some people's eyes already. So how important of a year is it for Philip Hedl this year?
Well, I think it's a very important year for Philip Hedl, twofold. One is to continue to prove that he can be an effective two-way player in the league, and by that I mean he's got to score more too. Okay, now if he starts on a line with Barclay Goodrow, Barclay Goodrow could be playing a lot of center on that line too, and that actually could open things up for Hedl a little bit more at times because Goodrow could be taking a lot of the D zone draws and taking away some of those and make it a little bit of an easier minutes for him. So that's number one. But there's an opportunity for Hedl as a center also to jump up and potentially earn a spot in next to Panarin. We don't know the future of Ryan Strome beyond just what he is as a Ranger now. Hedl, if there's a long-term plan for him, there could be a long-term plan to have him be a top 2 center on this team. He has the skill set to do it. He's still very young. He has the skill set to do it, and there's an opportunity there. I think it's a long shot at this point just simply because of the way that Panarin and Strome play together, but he has to push that. Hedl has to push that. And so I think twofold, it's a big opportunity for him because he can either establish himself as a real quality third line center for the Rangers, which is nice to have and an absolute necessity because when you look at it, I mean, look what Yanni Gourde did for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Why can't Philip Hedl play that role? Or he can establish and push himself to be a number 2 center and get the opportunity to play with an Artemi Panarin, which, I mean, will only further his career and make him even better in New York.
Yeah. You talked about the roster starting to get trimmed down. It seems like one of the last battles here remaining is for the last defensive spot between Zach Jones and Nils Lundkvist. Do you have a favorite you think that's going to land it? I mean, I would think it would be Lundkvist because isn't that why they brought in Nemeth from Colorado to kind of mentor him? And Zach Jones, going back to the end of last season, and you're right, it was kind of a weird season, so we have to take that into account. I didn't think it was overly impressive, although he has looked good so far in the preseason. So that last battle there, do you think there's a favorite right now?
I would think the favorite is Lundkvist for what you mentioned, also the fact that he's a righty, and I think that matters. Gerard Gallant isn't necessarily one who has always coached to lefty-righty, 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 but I think it matters in this case, especially because they brought in a lefty and Nemeth to be there. Zach Jones I think, would really benefit from playing top pair minutes in Hartford for a while, whereas Nils Lundkvist has played big minutes in professional hockey before. He did it in the Swedish Hockey League last year, and he was very good. He was the Bore Salming Award winner, the best Swedish-born defenseman in the SHL last year, and real just solid all around. He comes in, he's got a little Adam Fox-like game, and I think that's an important aspect of it as well. So I think Lundkvist would be the favorite for that spot, and I don't think that necessarily is a knock on Zach Jones at all. I think Zach Jones is a guy who has a future, whether it's in New York or somewhere else, and by the way, I mean, could be, a good part of a trade if the Rangers are looking to make it too. I mean, they're so deep on the back end.
Right.
They could have Schneider and Jones, Braden Schneider and Jones as their top pair in Hartford. That's pretty good. I mean, that's pretty good, and that's a good eye at what the future could be for for the Rangers or elsewhere.
Yeah, that they have a ton of assets. You're right, down the road if they want to make a deal at some point. A couple years ago, I remember reading somewhere that one of the best North American prospects at the time one of the best prospects in the NHL outside of North America was Vitaly Kravtsov. Where do you think he fits in this year? It certainly seems like he's going to start the season with up on an MSG. Where do you think he fits in, and what do you think his year looks like?
Well, that's another guy with a big opportunity to finally establish himself as an NHL player full time. I would think the way things are going right now, he starts on that third line with Hedel and Gaudreau. And that makes sense at the time right now. But if he outperforms Kako or Lafreniere or Kreider, he's going to move up. The opportunity is there. Gerard Gallant is not going to hesitate to move Kravtsov up if he's performing, and especially if one of the other three are not. Panarin's not going anywhere. He's staying in the top six. But there's an opportunity. Kreider could bump down. Lafreniere could bump down depending on how he plays. Kako the same way. So again, push. He's got to push, and Kravtsov has an opportunity here finally, I think, to really, as I mentioned, really establish himself. And here's the thing. He's another first-round pick. I think one thing that Ranger fans especially get caught up in is, well, he's got to be in the top six. There's only 6 spots, right? There's only 6 spots.
Right. That's a good point.
And you need what you need is 4 lines. You need 4 lines to win. I mean, look at the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like, just look at them. They won the last 2 Stanley Cups. Why? What was one of the biggest reasons they won the last 2 Stanley Cups? Because they had a terrific third line. Their third line was dynamite. And that's what it takes to win. The Rangers have skill. And Kravtsov's got a lot of it. But they need to have lines that are going to play roles. And he's got to be able to fit into that. It doesn't matter if he's not playing a top 6. It doesn't mean they don't rely on him to produce offense. I mean, Blake Coleman, Yanni Gordon, Barclay Gaudreau were sometimes among the best offensive players in the Lightning's lineup on a given night because of the way they played the game. You need it to win, and the Rangers are trying to build that from within with first-round picks like Hedel and Kravtsov, who came with a lot of skill and now have to really adapt their games.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting year. And you're right. Just because he's not in the top 6 doesn't mean that we can't expect him to be productive or see really a glimpse of what the future. Right. See what the glimpse of it may be. Last question about a player in specific, Lafreniere. What do you think? It sounds like he's going up to the top line, which is good. I mean, I'd rather him be there than last year where he started on the third line with Philip Hedel. So I'd rather that to kind of see what he's like. What do you expect from him this year?
Huge. I think he's going to be huge for the Rangers this year. I really do. This guy comes in. He's got so much skill. He's so professional. His game is a professional game. His attitude is a professional attitude. He doesn't. You don't think teenager or almost 20-year-old when you think of Lafreniere. I remember talking to Chris Kreider about him, and a lot of the things I was just saying is what Kreider was telling me just from getting to know him. And I think he's going to have a big year. He's got a big opportunity to play with Zibanejad. I think it works. I do. I think he's also another one that understands after playing last season. He comes in a little bit more comfortable. You remember what he went through. Like, this is a guy that was drafted in October, never had a development camp, never had a rookie camp, never had a preseason game, and he got thrown in. Now he's got, I think he played in all 56 games last year. So he's got 56 games of NHL experience plus a full training camp and preseason games. And this is going to only help him. A full off season of training of what it is to be an NHL player, a full training camp, preseason. It's only going to benefit him with the skill set that he has. I think he has a big year for the Rangers.
Yeah, I do too. I think especially playing on that top line, I mean, it could be exciting to watch. So I posted a poll on our Instagram page for the show about 3 weeks ago, and I put 6 Rangers up there that I thought were the most logical selections for a captain. And I was shocked that nobody selected one as an overwhelming winner. I mean, it was so split. It was unbelievable. From Trouba to Lindgren to Kreider. I mean, it was like dead set. Now they've eliminated Panarin because Panarin doesn't want it. So I guess really
he's eliminated himself.
He's eliminated himself. He doesn't want it. He said he doesn't speak good English. So which is fine. It's fine. As long as he scores goals, we're fine with that. He doesn't need to see on his chest. So is there you would think from what Drury has said and Gallant has said that they're going to name a captain by the start of the season, which is now 8 days away. Is there someone that you think it has the lead horse in this race, or is this really a toss-up between a bunch of guys?
Well, I'll give you a little insight. I have 4 stories written for the captain already. one on Fox, one on Trouba, one on Zibanejad, and one on Kreider. So I think it'll be one of those four. I hope it's going to be one of those
Okay.
four because I want to write a fifth story. Okay.
So
only one
the
of
fifth
them
story,
will run. Only one of those stories will run.
Well, the other one that we had that I put in the poll that I was surprised got some results was Lindgren. So hopefully you don't need to write it on them.
I don't think it'll be Lindgren. I think.
Yeah, I don't think either.
I don't think he's. I don't even think Lindgren gets an A. I think eventually he might, but I don't think yet for Ryan Lindgren. So, if Zibanejad was signed,
right, that's the problem.
I think he would get it. Okay. Now, I wouldn't rule out. I don't have insight on this, so I'm not breaking any news here. But I wouldn't rule out a sign and see for him before the season starts. Okay. I know they're talking about it. They're talking contract. They want to get it done. I would not rule out a long-term contract with him then also getting the C before October. When do they play? The 13th. So, I mean, we're talking a little over a week away. If that doesn't happen and they're going to have a captain, my next best guess would be Jacob Trouba. Jacob Trouba, last year, we weren't in the room, but every time we talked to Jacob Trouba, he had the pulse of the team and he was sort of the voice of what was going on. And every time we talked to David Quinn and he talked about who stepped up in the room or who said something, it was always Jacob Trouba. It was always the voice, the leader, he was doing that. So it leads me to believe that Trouba, now entering his third year in New York, has really gotten comfortable. And he's mentioned that in a leadership role. He's certainly been mentoring Keandre Miller. Guys, look up to him and they greatly respect his game. He's not a guy that has to put up big numbers for this team, and he knows that. He's got to play big minutes and physical minutes. And he is a voice. There's no question about it. He's got a voice. So I would guess if it's not Zibanejad on a sign and see, then it would be Trouba. But I'll be honest with you, the guy I would give it to is Adam Fox. And
same with me. That's what I would like to see.
Yeah. The reason I would give it to Adam Fox, and tell me if you agree on this, is he has the respect of the entire room after winning the Norris Trophy, the voice of the young player in the room because he is a young player in the room, and this is a young developing team with veteran presence, but still, a lot of the core now and future core of this team is young right now. And around the league, Adam Fox is now well respected too. So, and I've already seen it in the preseason here talking to him. We had him on our podcast, the At the Rink podcast. There is a comfort level that I have seen now with Adam Fox in speaking about the Rangers and speaking about himself and the role and being a leader that I didn't see in the first 2 years. Maybe winning the Norris Trophy has really done that for him. I just think because he's a young guy and that's a young room, he could be a voice for the young players on that room and still has massive respect from the veteran players too, that he would be the right pick. But again, I think at this point, he's probably third or fourth in the running.
Yeah. Will be interesting. At least we'll get the answer probably you would think in the next week. So we'll see which article you hit send on out of the four.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll get the answer soon. So the $1 million question, of course, now with the Rangers, before I ask you a Devils question, where do they finish? Now, we were talking in the studio here. Our producer B-Rock is a Devils fan. The division for the first time isn't great. I mean, Carolina's good. The Islanders are good, but the Islanders are never usually a top of the table regular season team, but they're good, of course. You got Pittsburgh now dealing with a lot of injuries. They're starting the season not in great shape. Columbus is not great either, you would think. The Philadelphia, I always look at the AV graph, I call it, that every year AV goes somewhere, it starts high, and every year it gets a little bit worse. So I'm not in love with that. And Washington is older. I mean, they're still good, and obviously Lavallette's a good coach, but it's not a great division. So I guess for my eyes, and you can tell me if you agree, the Rangers need to make the playoffs. I think that's the first step. You're in a division here, the top four. You don't know if the Metro will have the fifth spot, but the top four are going to get in here. So is it fair to assume that the Rangers should make the playoffs? Is that fair to use as a measuring stick here?
Yeah, they should make the playoffs. They're a playoff team. They're good enough to be a playoff team. They're built to be a playoff team. They have quality. Their forward depth is strong, should be deep. They have more grind and physicality. They have more pushback with the guys that they added. Sammy Blais is a guy we haven't mentioned right now, and I think Sammy Blais could have a big season for the Rangers in a bottom six role. He can be an offensive presence, but he's got a lot of bite to his game. Their D is strong, especially their top four. We don't know yet necessarily about their third pair, but their top four is as good as any top four in the league, and their goaltending is quality. I think they're a playoff team. They should be a playoff team. I have them third in the division. I have the Islanders first, Carolina second, and the Rangers third, followed by Washington. And I think all four make the playoffs. Philadelphia is the wild card here for me. Obviously Washington would be the wild card in the standings, but Philadelphia is the one that could throw a wrench into this. Pittsburgh could too, but eventually the Pittsburgh Penguins have to hit a downward trend here with their season, and not having Evgeny Malkin for the first 2 months is a crushing blow for this team. Not having Sidney Crosby for the first 4, 6, 8 games, that hurts, because those 4, 6, 8 games could be the difference in getting in and not getting in. We don't think about that in October, but we think about that in April, right? And let's say they start 2-4-1 without Crosby. Well, the points that they miss there will be the difference in them not making the playoffs if they don't get it. So I think the Rangers are ready. They're a team. They're an up-and-coming team in the division I think the Islanders have no holes. The Islanders are legit. I have the Islanders going to the Stanley Cup final. Carolina's got a lot of changeover, but they're still very good and so well coached. And those two teams play to their system as well or better than any other team in the league. And then I think the Rangers are ready to push ahead of Washington, ready to push ahead of Pittsburgh, and there you go. I think they're there, and they're better in my mind than Philadelphia, because I trust their goaltending more, and I just trust their forward depth a little bit more. We'll see, but I got them third right now. I also think there's a Gallant bump that they get. Gallant, yes. We've seen it with Vegas. We saw it with Vegas. See it a little bit with Florida before he was let go. There's a bump there that he brings his teams because he lets them play. There's a freedom to Gerard Gallant's game. Play hard, play aggressive, grind, forecheck like crazy, and then you could do whatever you want after that.
Yeah, we were talking in the studio here before that Gallant, the first year, if you look, exactly like you said, where he's been, there's been kind of a little push. You kind of get a little bit of an added boost that first year, it seems, with the production. All right, shifting gears, the Devils, not my favorite team, but I'm going to take a question. So the Devils in the offseason, obviously Dougie Hamilton was a great signing. I think the trade they made for Ryan Graves was great as well. You got Ty Smith is still up and coming. You got a healthy Nico, it seems like. You also have Jack Hughes, Tatar. This kid Alexander Holtz looks like he could be good. You still got Subban back. Could the Devils surprise in some ways?
I don't know it would be a surprise. I think the Devils are better than they were last year, and they should be better than they were last year. I don't think they're a playoff team. I think if they make the playoffs, that's the surprise. I wouldn't go ahead yet and put them in playoffs, but I do think that they are a team that should be better than they have been in previous years. I think Jack Hughes can have a big year. I think Jack Hughes can be close to a point-per-game player this season. They need a healthy Nico Hischier. If they have a healthy Jack Hughes and a healthy Nico Hischier, they have a very good 1-2 punch down the middle, and it's what they've been waiting for, and they haven't had it, right? I think Dougie Hamilton is a terrific addition, especially to a power play that wasn't very good. Is he a number one defenseman? He's getting paid like one, but is he that? I don't know. He's been kind of sheltered in that role in Carolina with Slavin there and Brett Pesce there. And so I don't know, but I think Dougie Hamilton is a top 5 offensive defenseman, and that will help the New Jersey Devils without question. I like Ryan Graves. I like that addition. I think, he's another guy who can eat a lot of minutes, so that's big. I think they're a good team. I do. I just don't think that they're at the level yet of being top 4 in the division, but they're a quality team that should be better than they were last year. And that would be, that would be a significant step for the New Jersey Devils. That would be the progress that Tom Fitzgerald, their GM, and Lindy Ruff, their coach, need to see.
Yeah, I would agree. And our producer B-Rock had a good point before. He's a Devil fan. He said, look, I just want meaningful games beyond January, right? Normally I have to check out in January, but I would love to be in a position where March or April, the games still matter and I'm still into it. That would be a win. So he's on the same page as you. Last question, and then we'll let you go. What is your prediction for this ending of the Eichel saga? How does this end?
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't know how this ends. I think eventually it ends with trade. Eventually it ends with a trade. But what surgery path that they go down? I don't know. I think at some point, either the NHL or an independent arbiter is going to have to step in and settle this, because if you're at odds here at completely different ends with the player, from the medical staff to what he wants, I don't know how it ends. It's kind of in that murky water right now that we aren't really familiar with. So how it ends, I would, eventually with a trade, but prior to that, you might need a neutral arbiter to come in and help settle this difference between, for the medical difference between the two sides. And it might have to be independent medical advice from not Jack Eichel and his medical people, and not the Buffalo Sabres and their medical people. It might have to be independent, the independent arbiter might have to be an independent, just independent medical advice and what to do.
Yeah, crazy situation up there. Well, we thank you for joining us as always. You are our favorite guest. We don't hide that. And so we hope you'll be back during the season. Obviously, we'll be covering a lot of hockey, so we'll have plenty to talk about. And enjoy Tampa. Enjoy opening night.
Looking forward to it, and I'm coming on anytime. Anytime you want, just reach out and let me know, and I'll be there. All right.
Thanks, Dan. Be well. We'll see you soon.
All right.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, guys.
So that is Dan Rosen, senior writer, NHL.com. Awesome.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
I could, if we don't have time limits on this podcast, which we do, I could just literally sit here for hours and hours. It goes on and on.
Absolutely.
I could have asked 1,000.
We got to get our hands on those other stories that don't get released. The untold stories.
Captain stories. The runners up and the captaincy stuff. So that was Dan Rosen. You can see him throughout the season, really all over the place, but he's always on NHL.com, and you can see him there. So shifting gears now to football, because we have a lot to get to still on the show. We had our week 4 picks this past weekend, and I am pleased to announce that we did get another winning week. We will do a little bit of recap. Like I said, we entered at 2-1. Thank you, Dougie Sticks, for making the money signs.
Making it rain, baby.
If you're following us on camera. So Dougie Sticks made some money again this week. That is 3 out of 4 weeks we've made you money. The 2 games we had wrong, let's start there. We had Minnesota +2 at home versus Cleveland. That did not hit. And we had Pittsburgh +6.5 up at Green Bay. But we did have 3 right. So a winning week. We had the Seahawks getting points in San Francisco. They won the game outright. Sticking with that theme, we had Arizona getting points in LA. They won the game outright. And we had Washington -1.5, and they covered down in Atlanta. And that does not have anything to do with my Atlanta hatred that you were claiming on the show last week.
Sure.
So that is a winning week for week 4
job.
in the NFL. And I will throw a little bit of hot water on myself.
Yeah.
As you know, last week on the show, we did a little game,
Yes.
or 2 games,
Yes.
really, where we talked about, hey, when will the Giants win their first game?
I saw you ruined your game.
And then let's also talk about when's the first Jets game they're going to win. And both New York teams, miraculously, who were more than a touchdown underdog, 7.5, really, both of them is where they closed, ended up winning the game outright, both in dramatic fashion in overtime. With the Giants winning down in New Orleans and the Jets winning at home versus Tennessee. So we give them credit.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I said that if they didn't beat the Saints, there's season's no chance. Like, don't even watch them. Return your jersey.
I still don't think that there is going to be an exciting season for them, but it is good to get a win because we do know what's coming up, including the Giants this week down in Dallas, and the Jets actually have a winnable game out in London this weekend versus Atlanta. So here we go with the week 5 Mind Your Puckin' Business picks. Here we go. So I am going to go down a road where I got burned doing this last week. So I said I had Minnesota getting 2 at home versus Cleveland. I thought Minnesota would come ready to go, and they were not. So I am taking Detroit +7.5 at Minnesota. I get Detroit. I get more than a touchdown, so I'm covered by a little extra point there with a half point. Plus, Detroit hasn't been bad. They could have won in Chicago. They had a good comeback the other day. They certainly could have beat Baltimore 2 weeks ago if Justin Tucker doesn't hit that 66-yard field goal, setting an NFL record. So they could have won, and they had a good comeback in week 1 versus San Francisco. They made the game close. So 7.5 is a lot versus a team that's still looking for their first win. I'm taking Detroit 7.5. The next game, you have to get this right. I mean, if you're at Pittsburgh, you have to show up because if you don't show up this week at home versus Denver, your season's over. You're -1. So really, it's almost like a pick 'em.
Yeah.
and I'm taking the Steelers at home. Denver, again, may have been a victim of playing three really bad teams in the beginning. They played the Giants, the Jaguars, and the Jets, started 3-0. Everybody got on the train, and then lost this weekend at home versus Baltimore. Give me Pittsburgh, who needs the game, -1 at home versus Denver. Now, the next game, I'm about to jinx myself here.
Uh-oh.
I looked at this spread last night, and you ever see a spread and you're like, what? What am I missing?
Yeah.
This was one of those moments for me.
All right.
The Chargers, -1. The LA Chargers, -1 at home against Cleveland. Cleveland is good, but Cleveland's not that good that this is.
Yeah, and the Chargers are killing.
And they won again last night.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something here that I don't know. Nobody's injured as far as I know. I checked. Eckler, Herbert, they're all playing. So give me the Chargers basically in a pick 'em at home versus Cleveland. Cleveland is 3-1. They're off to a good start, but they're not that good that they're going to go to the West Coast and win in LA. They shouldn't, at least. So give me the Chargers -1. The next one I struggled with to pick. I wasn't really sure which way I wanted to go. Buffalo has been really good against the spread. Really good against the spread, whether they've been favorites or underdogs. Now they go and they have an AFC Championship rematch. You got to think they're going to get up for that. They've won 3 in a row. They absolutely manhandled Houston, which may be a peewee football team at this point, but they won 40-0 this week. Now they're getting points on the road in Kansas City. They're getting 2.5. It's not a lot of points, but there's something with Buffalo now. I think they're rolling. And Kansas City, even though they did play better this week, in Philly, their defense is not great. I think Buffalo's got a chance here, and I get a little bit of coverage with points. So give me Buffalo +2.5 at Kansas City. The last game, Washington helped me out this week. They won down in Atlanta. They're +2 at home versus New Orleans. It's really a pick'em game to me, but if I can get a home team here with 2 points coverage, I'm gonna do that. New Orleans obviously is coming off losing to the Giants. They didn't look good there. New Orleans is kind of Jekyll and Hyde, right? Week one, they win down in Jacksonville against Green Bay. They basically, in this hurricane game, they didn't have a home game. Then they lost week 2. They looked terrible in Carolina. Then they went up to Foxborough, won in Foxborough, looked great, and then came home and lost to the Giants. So what are you going to get with New Orleans? It doesn't seem to be consistent. Washington's coming off a win. They're not playing terribly, and they're home getting 2. So give me Washington +2. So to recap, the week 5 picks for Mind Your Pucking Business. Detroit on the road +7.5 in Minnesota. The Steelers -1 at home versus Denver. The Chargers -1 at home versus Cleveland. Buffalo +2.5 at the Chiefs. And Washington +2 at home versus New Orleans. You good with that?
Yeah, I mean, those are the ones that stuck out to you. I mean, the only one that really is like a no-brainer is the Chargers game.
Yeah, and I'm surprised. Now, look, we say that, and now Cleveland will win. Like, it's the kiss of death to do what we just did.
Yeah.
But I don't understand that one. Now, we have to pick, as we do on the show, even though we're not including them this week. They weren't in our 5 games. We do pick the hometown teams.
Yep.
The Jets go into the NFL in Europe series.
Oh,
they
yeah.
play the Atlanta Falcons. The aforementioned on this program, Atlanta Falcons, it seems this year. We give the Atlanta Falcons more press on this show than any other show out there. For some reason.
Bad press. Terrible press.
Don't know why. So the Jets go across the pond into London, +3.5 against Atlanta. Who you taking?
I'm going to go with the Jets.
So am I. You know why? I don't know. It's probably a pick'em game in my eyes. Zach Wilson, let's say something. He did look good this weekend. And Tennessee's not a bad team. Zach Wilson looked good. I'm getting coverage here with a field goal, right? So I'm taking the Jets +3.5. Can I say something about the Jets game, by the way?
Yeah.
Before we move on?
Yeah.
The Jets the other day are in overtime. Now, you're probably not watching this because you're hungover from your bachelor party.
I watched both games. I had the previous button.
Okay.
Going back and forth.
The Jets now have a 3rd and goal from the 1-yard line in overtime, right? So because they have the ball first, but if you score a touchdown, it's over.
Yeah.
So you need to go 1 yard, and the game is over. You know, Robert Saleh, the coach, wins his first game. Zach Wilson's won his first game. Craziness, right?
Yes.
You have to go 1 yard. It's 3rd and 1. Now you think you're going to run the ball. If you get stopped, you have a second chance. You would go to it on 4th down, of course, right? What did the Jets do? They do a play action. They lose 5 yards. It's typical Jet stupidity.
Yeah. Like it was a Zach Wilson rolled out play action, and he rolled like.
What are you doing?
And then he saw the guy, and he like rolled into like the defender.
What are you doing?
At
At that point, I said to my son who was watching the game with me, I'm like, because I called him in the room because he kind of
Mhm.
likes the Jets.
Yeah.
And I wanted him to see the Jets get a win. And he's like, is it going to be on this play? And I'm like, no, this play, no. And eventually they held on, but like, what are you doing? But anyway, I'm taking the Jets out there in London plus 3.5. Now the Giants go down to Dallas, to Big D.
Mhm.
They are getting a touchdown and a point, so they're plus 7.5.
Okay.
What do you think?
Who are they playing?
At Dallas.
At Dallas. 7.5
Mhm.
points. Ooh.
I'll go first on this one.
Yeah.
Since you went first with the Jets. I am going to take the Giants plus 7.5. Do I think they're going to win? No. Obviously, I don't think they're going to win in the first 11 weeks. If you watched the show last week, but a 7.5 is a lot for. They usually play close games. The Giants Cowboy games are never usually blowouts.
True.
For whatever reason, I don't know why. Even
it's
the
a big rivalry game.
Yeah. 7.5 is a lot, so I'm going to take the Giants. So I'm taking the Giants and the Jets.
I'll take the Giants.
So we're both taking the Giants and the Jets.
I'll take the Giants. Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you this much. I bet on the Cowboys the last 2 weeks on DraftKings. They're playing good. I've taken the Cowboys, but we'll take the Giants this week. I'm with you on that. 7.5 points is a lot of points.
It's a lot for a rivalry game that historically usually they're close, right? They usually come down to something in the fourth quarter, 4-7 point differential.
Yep.
So I think that would be the way to go. So that is our NFL wrap. We did some hockey. So we did some hockey. We did some NFL. We did
a lot of sports.
We did for the first time ever a little sprinkle in some baseball.
Yes.
I would like the Yankees to win tonight. You know why? I would like the Yankees to win. Obviously, I'm a Yankee fan, and I would like them to win. But aside from that, it would make things exciting around here to get a playoff team, right? The Giants and the Jets are not going to the playoff. Yeah. The Rangers are not going to the playoff. Well, they are hopefully this year, but they haven't been since 2008. It would be good to have
something to root for, something to believe in,
something to be happy with. So why don't we I know we have a guest out in the hall, so we can get him situated. Before we do that, and we turn the attention to that, any questions on your end, Dougie Sticks?
No. I'm all about something to believe in, though.
So you went on Friday night to the Ranger Devil preseason massacre, we'll call it.
Yes.
Do you feel like this show has prepped you more for hockey?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm a hockey fan. I play lacrosse. I know the sport. I know how things go. Tom, you can come in.
So we're gonna bring in.
We're talking about the Devils beating the Rangers.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. All of a sudden,
grab your headphones right there, Tom.
And they play again tomorrow night. So the Rangers, Rangers will conclude their preseason with 2 more games. They'll be home at the Garden tomorrow night against the New Jersey Devils.
Yes.
And then they will go up to Bridgeport over the weekend and end their preseason schedule with the New York Islanders. So we are going to shift gears now.
Yeah.
And that is we're going to bring in our main man, Tom Rahelski of Sonnet Financial Technologies. How are you, Tom?
Hey, great. Thanks. Nice job. Hey, Doug.
How are we doing?
Good. Are you at the game on Friday?
Yes, I was.
Oh, man.
He was. Let's see if he was coherent at the game.
I was coherent. We had a great time. We had sweet access. I don't even want to let people know because there's some secrets I learned at this game that I will be doing at every preseason game. Let me just say I had sweet access. I had unlimited free food.
What was the food choices in the suite there?
Chicken nuggets,
sliders, buffalo wings, sweet potato French fries, cheesesteaks. But we shouldn't have had this. That's my point. We thank you PSC&G.
But you're talking about the tunnels downstairs, right?
Yeah. So if
you just walk around like you're supposed to be there, nobody stops you, and you can just go into these VIP areas and then just get free food.
Sweet access. We're right at mid ice. I think we had the box of the visiting team owner's box, but it was a preseason, so no one was there. So yeah, we had a great time.
James Dolan box.
That
would have been James Dolan.
Yes.
So why don't we shift gears to Tom? And Tom always comes in and gives us some good financial advice and tips. So the mic is all yours. Go ahead.
Great. Yeah, thanks a lot. So this week I want to talk about emergency savings, right? Especially now in today's economic environment, with so many people out of work, and I don't want to say have negative connotation, but so many people asking for handouts from the government, because we are in a very tough situation.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of ways that you could have maybe prevented this and helped yourself, prior to the pandemic, and even going forward. There are a lot of tips you could do to help yourself going forward, and one of them is talking about building an emergency savings account. So I'm going to ask you, Doug, what do you think is the average emergency savings account for an American?
What they actually an average is,
Yeah,
or what you should have.
What do you think is the average?
The average,
Yeah.
I want to say $1,000.
$1,000, a little bit low, but close. Yeah. What do you think, Jeff?
The average, 5,000.
5,000? 5,000. It's actually 3,000.
Well, we're in the middle.
3,000
Yeah,
is
right
the
there.
average American
Okay.
emergency savings, right? So the question is that enough?
No.
No,
Absolutely
right.
not.
That we can agree on.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So the CFP board recommends to have 3 to 6 months worth of emergency savings on hand.
Wow.
All right. So do you know what the average American spends on a monthly basis?
On a monthly basis, I would say $4,000.
$4,000. What do you think, Joe?
I was going to say 5.
5. You got it. 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ding, ding.
So you
Exactly
see
right.
right now off the bat, most Americans don't have enough in emergency savings to help them out, because you need at least, let's say 15,000 or 20 grand to really prepare yourself for an emergency. And I think that I also read that 4 out of 10 Americans don't even have enough emergency savings if a $400 unexpected, bill came out of nowhere.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's very unfortunate, and I know it's tough. I know it's tough to save, but doing some simple math. If you save $25 a week after 2 years, you should have about $2,500 saved up, right? And if you, of course, double that to about 50, you should have about 5,000 saved up in emergency savings after 2 years. So, of course, everybody's going to say, where am I going to get this extra money from, right? So, you have to figure out a way to kind of protect yourself and help yourself financially. So you have to cut back a little bit, right? So think about, things that you spend money on a daily basis. There you go, Jeff.
$7
Starbucks
there you go,
coffee. There you go.
My Dunkin' Donuts iced tea that I have every show here.
Yeah, exactly. So Starbucks. You have Starbucks 5 days a week.
$7 Starbucks
$7.
coffee.
Boom. That's $28 a week. You could be saved. Actually, $35. That's $35.
Well, $7 a day. Some people go there every morning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So if the average emergency savings is what, 4,000, right? Or
Mhm.
3,000, 3,000, right? And obviously we would all agree that that's too low.
Mhm.
If it wasn't a problem, what should it be for the average number, for the average American? What do you think it should be the average savings?
The average savings. Well, it also depends on your spending habits. It also depends on your lifestyle, right? So if you have more of a less expensive lifestyle, then maybe 3,000 is enough, right? But if you're the average American, you need at least 15 to 20,000 saved up.
Okay.
Because that's about 5. And in fact, if you want to be extra safe, you want around 6 months worth of emergency savings. So I would say even double that.
So that's 6 months your salary or 6 months your spending?
6 months your monthly spending.
Your monthly spending. Got
Yeah.
it. Okay. That would
Now, can you make your emergency fund be your Roth IRA?
Good question. So see, Doug is learning, right?
He pays attention.
He's
really
retaining information. I love it. So the good thing about the Roth IRA is it is after-tax money. So your initial contribution you could pull out as your emergency savings. So yeah, Doug, that's a good point. So you could kind of double up there, have your Roth as your retirement savings, and also it's got kind of a backup emergency savings. Yes, but you can't really do that with your traditional IRA. In theory, if you have a 401k, a lot of 401ks offer loans against your 401k plan. So as you guys know, I have a brewery business. I actually took a loan against my 401k to use some of the initial funding costs, and then I paid back the loan. But that's a little bit of a catch-22 because usually you need your emergency fund when you lose your job. So you can't really take a loan against your 401k if you're not currently employed. Yeah.
So what would be the best option to make your emergency the Roth IRA or the unlimited banking option? Should you then you're taking money against yourself?
Can I just say something? He really might be your best.
He's
student
calling
ever.
it back to the first week. I love it.
Dude, I know. I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm taking notes,
Yeah,
man.
you are.
I'm gonna unlimited bank the shit out of this place.
I tell you, if Tom ever brings like a pop quiz in here one day, I'm copying off your paper. My God.
Yeah, it's good. Well, what I actually recommend is to do the blind vacation savings. They call it the Vacation Savings Club.
Okay.
back in the day, and just set up a separate savings account at your bank. And most payroll companies let you do more than one direct deposit.
Mhm.
So of course, make sure you're maxing out your 401k, doing a Roth 401k, so you have after-tax money. Have the money go into your regular checking account, which you use to spend for your expenses, but also create like a little secret savings account for yourself and squirrel away $50, $100 a week and put that into an extra account. And you'll be surprised. At first, you'll be like, oh man, it's really tight at the end of the month. I was about to, do this and this, and I realized my spending is a little bit low. But you'll notice over time, over a couple months, you'll actually adjust your spending habits. So that extra $100 or $50, whatever you're pulling from your paycheck into that secret savings account,
Mhm.
you'll adjust your spending habits, and you'll realize, all right, I used to live on, $1,000 a month. Now I'm living off 900. I could do this, and then you'll be surprised how quickly that savings grows and grows over time.
Last question, I promise. Last question.
No, I love it. Yeah, keep it
So I'm going to
going,
make my unlimited banking account, right? I could
Okay.
put up to $5,000 a year into that, correct?
Yes, correct.
So then I'm going to get interest from that. So why don't I make my unlimited banking option and then take the interest on that to put into my emergency bank account savings?
You could do that because you're getting paid a dividend, but usually with the unlimited infinite banking, the dividends are used to pay off the interest on the loan.
But I'm not going to take a loan.
Yeah.
Yet. I don't have to take a loan, do I? I can put my money into an infinite banking account, and then I'm going to be getting.
Well, I think what you're
dividends.
saying, Dougie, is that using your infinite banking loan capability as an emergency fund, you could do that too. Yeah, so you can have the dividends.
Can I have the account and put it in as like a savings account, but not take a loan out of it, or I have to take a loan when I do the infinite banking option?
Yes. So you're taking a loan out against your
Gotcha.
thing.
Gotcha.
But in theory, you could use the dividends
Mhm.
from your life insurance to pay yourself too. Yeah, you could use that. You can have the dividends. Most people just have the dividends reinvested back in the insurance plan,
Mhm.
but you could in theory have the dividends paid out to another account. Yeah,
Yeah.
you could do that, Doug. Yep.
Well, thank you for the insight. And I'm very impressed with Dougie's stance. I mean, I'm like,
Yeah, I love it.
I've taught him
Dude.
about hockey.
He's a model pupil.
He really is. He was the valedictorian of Northern Highlands.
Yeah, right.
Well, that is a wrap for us. So if
Yeah,
any
good.
questions going forward, you know where to find us, mypbshow@gmail.com, and that'll come across your screen magically in a minute here. There you go.
Boom.
There it is.
And you can send us your questions. With hockey season starting, I think
Mhm.
you'll probably be getting more of those through the email.
Yes.
And then
Go
also,
Devils.
and then we also going forward can take your football questions as well. We have 3 out of 4 winning weeks. We're going to try here week number 5 to go on a little bit of a run, get a little hot streak going, which is not easy to do. And then next week, exciting, when we are live, which I think is next Tuesday, we
Mhm.
will be 1 day away from the start of the NHL season, like the
Oh.
real stuff. Which
Well,
means Dougie Sticks, you really got to start studying because I'm going to
dude,
be.
I passed every test today.
You-
What are you?
He's studying finance. He's studying
Yeah,
hockey. He's
taking over the
studying
world. I'm always
football. He's
listening.
got everything. Yeah.
So some people have like photo, which I kind of do. Like this place is a mess, and if you said, "Hey, where's this cable?" Like I know where everything is. But like if I hear you say something, like I'll
You
retain
got
that.
apparently, color me impressed.
There you go.
Well, thank you for listening. We also thank, of course, Dan Rosen, senior writer, NHL.com, for coming on, our favorite guest of all, always. And he can come on at any time, and he will be on throughout the season, as he mentioned, to talk more hockey. We thank Sonnen Financial Technologies as well, and Tom Rahelski. We thank you for coming in as well. And any other things on your end, Dougie Sticks, before we go?
I'm good.
You're
Gonna
good?
Take over the world with my infinite banking system and put all that dividends into my sports betting habit on DraftKings, and we're good to go.
And bada bing, bada boom.
Bada boom.
Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will talk to you on the other side next week, where we will be 1 day away from the Rangers opener down in Washington, D.C. Thank you very much.
Great.